Hey everybody, it's Greg again. It's another edition of Unbreakable the podcast. Thursday, September 19th, the TV classic in a week. But before I do, I'll just take another episode, a regular episode, gala episode. I forgot to mention two birthdays of heavenly birthdays today. Happy heavenly birthday, Adam West, the original Batman. Upset. I don't care about all these other Batmen. I could keep all these other things. On Batman me, Adam West. That's the true Batman. And happy heavenly birthday also to Brian Epstein, the manager of the Beatles. He would have been 90 years old too. He would have what? 90 years old. um, yeah, there's a movie coming along there so soon. I think it's called Vitus Man. And well, that is what he died young. And he's really the one who discovered the Beatles, who promoted them. Hi, Kipper, hi. And he made the Beatles into icons, right? If it wasn't for Epstein discovering it at the cavern club, who knows what would happen, right? Happy birthday. All right, so this TV show, this is a show, as I've read up all week long, a little show that could, a show that nobody believed in, but succeeded. And the show is the Waltons. I hear a lot of groans out there. Oh, the Waltons, they sell. The Waltons were very nice. Look, Cookie's even leaving. The Waltons, what the hell? I'm out of here. Anyway, no, the Waltons were good. They were wholesome entertainment. They're still beloved today. But I'm going to tell you the story about the Waltons, and you're going to be shocked about this. First of all, let me give you a little background history. A guy named Earl Hammer Jr. created the Waltons, wrote the Waltons. He did everything with the Waltons. This Earl Hammer Jr. He was a very important playwright. Before the Waltons, he wrote a couple episodes of the Twilight Zone. He was TV's infancy, 50s, early 60s. This Earl Hamner Jr. was a pretty important screenwriter back then. He conceived of the Waltons, and actually, there was a novel first called Spencer's Mountain, which was published in 1961, and then there was a movie called Spencer's Mountain. I believe Spencer Tracy was the main guy in that movie, and really it revolves about John Boy. John Boy was like the central character in the Waltons, played by the great Richard Thomas himself. And John Boy was patterned after Earl Hamner Jr. himself, all about how he grew up very poor in a rural part of Virginia and always wanted to be a writer, turned out to be a writer. So Hamner's early life is John Boy. I always thought, we never really saw what happened. Well, there were a lot of, we're not going to talk about all the reunion movies of the Waltons. And there were like dozens of them. The Waltons at Easter, the Waltons at Christmas, the Waltons this, the Waltons that, the Waltons on Groundhog Day. But I always thought, what if John Boy lived to be, 90 years old? Would they still call him John Boy? Or would it be John Old Man? I don't know. Hey, so the very first thing we saw of the Waltons was the movie, a Christmas movie called The Homecoming. Remember The Homecoming? I loved that movie. We didn't know anything about the Waltons back then, but it was about this family living pre-World War II in the mountains of Virginia, and it was about the father trying to get home for Christmas, and he couldn't get home. And they were worried about whether the father was involved in this big accident that they heard about on the radio. And the whole story is about is John Walton going to make it home? And it was a very heartwarming story, you know? And that's the first we heard of the Waltons. And the narrator of the Waltons was Hamner himself. So the guy who created the Waltons, the guy who wrote most of the episodes for the Waltons, that's the guy who narrated the episodes. Go figure. The Waltons lasted 9 seasons. Keep that in mind because I'm going to tell you the story in a minute. 9 seasons, 221 episodes of the freaking Waltons. How about that? It was on CBS and it was on for an hour. And the first Waltons show premiered on September 19th, which is today. I didn't realize that. This must be karma. This must be a sign. I didn't know that until I read this thing here. Today, 1972. So let me think. I always sucked at math. But 1972, 1, 2, 3, 4, 52 years ago today, the Waltons premiered on CBS. Thursday at 8. Yeah, Thursday at 8 o'clock. And the last show, sadly, of the Waltons was on June the 4th, 1981. The show, the movie, The Homecoming, which the Waltons is based on, that was first shown on December 19th, right before Christmas, 1970. And of course, we know the Waltons from a lot of catchphrases, especially "Good night, John Boy." Do you remember the ending of every single Waltons? They'd show the house there, and the lights would go off, one by one. And then you would hear, "Good night, John Boy. Good night, Mary Ellen. Good night, Mary Sue. Good night, Lily. Good night, Grandpa. Good night, Grandma. Good night, da-da. All these good nights took like 40 minutes themselves. You had no room for the story. But that was an iconic thing. And then the catchphrase, "Good night, John Boy," became one of the leading catchphrases of the 1970s. I say it now, like when Coco comes in and it's late at night and he's walking out of the room, naturally, I'll say, "Good night, John Boy." Now, actually, the 70s had to be a pretty rough time. I lived through the 70s and survived from here, but to think that the catchphrase "Good night, John Boy" was one of the leading catchphrases of the whole freaking decade. Thank you. Anyway, the show is set in Jefferson County, Virginia. The real place, in case you want to go down there and look sometimes, is Schuyler, Virginia. Now, you're not going to find a Walton's house or anything like that, because all the sets were in Hollywood. The Walton house, the Walton, the general store, everything. Even the mountains, which were supposed to be the Blue Ridge Mountains, da 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 da, John Denver. They were really the Hollywood Hills. It doesn't sound as romantic, does it? Huh? You think, the Blue Ridge Mountains, huh? How beautiful it must be down there, And the Skyline Drive. Did you ever go down that way? It's beautiful. And you see all the mountains and the mist in the distance, the misty stuff, and the green and everything. And then the thing that those mountains on the Waltons were really the Hollywood Hills, huh? Takes all the romance out of it. Okay, well, The Walton's time frame on the show goes from 1933 to 1946, right after World War II ends. And if you ever notice, the Waltons went for 9 seasons. This time frame is like 13 years. But each season of the Waltons corresponds pretty closely to 1 year. So to me, I just watched the Waltons. I didn't think, wow, this is 1942. This is I didn't really think that way. But if you really, really focus on the episodes, you'll see that it is chronologically set to that time frame. John Walton Sr., who was played by the great Ralph Waite. He worked in a lumber mill during the series. And John Sr. also did a lot of, part-time jobs. He would go and cut some grass, he would do this, he would do that, just to pick up some money. Because think about it, the guy had like, what was it, 10 kids, 10, 12 kids? He had to put food on the table somehow. So other than working in the lumber mill, and it was Depression times. Times were tough. Well, my mom used to tell us about those times. She would say if she got an orange for Christmas, she was happy. She was lucky. Times were tough back then. So that was a pretty realistic depiction of how times were. You had all the characters, from Jason to Jim Bob Jim, Jim Mary Ellen, and then you had the side characters like the Baldwin sisters. These two sisters who were pretty well-to-do. It was always a place because they had this nice house, nicer than the Waltons. It was implied they made moonshine, on the side. They didn't want to get caught. I think a lot of people in the county knew that the Baldwin sisters were making moonshine. They didn't want to squeal on them because they'd be cutting their own throat, because a lot of people bought moonshine from the Baldwin sisters, right? And it must have been good. So why ruin a good thing? You had Ike Godsey, who was the store owner and also the local justice of the peace. I did a little bit of everything. John Boy eventually, we know John Boy eventually grew up and did become a writer. And here's his progression. If you follow the series, he went to Boatwright University, which was to Hamner, it was Richmond University, the Richmond Spiders. And because that's where Hamner went to school. So Boatwright University. And then John Boy became a journalist in New York City. Eventually moved down to the mountain, and he, I gotta say something here. This Richard Thomas guy was always one of my favorites. He's a very, very distinguished actor, honestly. Other than the 9 years in the Waltons, he went on and he did a lot of plays, a lot of Broadway, TV movies. In fact, not too long ago, I think it was last year, he came to Philly. He was in To Kill a Mockingbird. He had the role of Atticus Finch, the Gregory Peck role in the movie. And so he's still around, Richard Thomas. He's still acting. So, but what an actor this guy was. And he showed in the Waltons, he showed a lot of sensitivity, a lot of compassion. John Boy led with his arm on his sleeve. He was very toward. The father was like, "Oh, John Boy, you're gonna be a grandpa." You say, "John Boy, you're gonna be a farmer just like us." "Well, no, Grandpa, I want to be a writer." Back in those days, that was like, I would say evil. I wouldn't be that harsh, but it was frowned upon because being a writer, it's not really a consistent job. Back in Depression times in World War II, you needed that paycheck every week or every 2 weeks. So took a lot of courage for John Boy to stand up for what he believed in and say, I want to be a writer. And he did. And so to me, John Boy always had a lot of courage and one of my favorite characters of all time. The real grandpa and grandma. I always loved them. Will Geer and Ellen Corby. They were kind of like my grandparents, They were everybody's grandparents. Feisty, and yet, wise, able to give sage advice, and just really nice people. The kind of grandparents you would always want. It's very interesting because they incorporated when Ellen Corby had a stroke in real life. They incorporated that story, that part of her life challenge into the story of the Waltons. They made it that Grandma Walton had a stroke, was unable to talk. She'd say a few words, but she really couldn't form too many sentences. So the writers, Earl Hamner especially, ingenious that they were able to keep her in the series for as long as they could, and they just incorporated her story. And it showed Grandma had a lot of spunk, a lot of courage, and very inspiring. The Waltons the Waltons, the whole series was inspiring, wasn't it? Not only was it heartwarming, and it was decent family TV. Not the kind of crap you get now on TV, but back then it was good. And it was inspiring stuff. That's why a lot of people tuned in to see the Waltons, because they got to know the family, they got to know the kids, they got to know the grandparents and the parents, and they wanted to find out how these people were going about their lives, how they were surviving week to week. When Grandma had her stroke, okay, let's see how she's dealing with it. It was very inspiring to the rest of us to watch. Coco agrees. So some other things, real quick. I don't know if you know it or not, but John Walmsley, he played Jason, one of the kids in the Waltons. Coco. He was a real life guitarist. In fact, he was in Richard Williams' band. I read like Richard Williams. He was in the band, and he was Richard Martin, original guitarist in the band. Mary Ellen, Mary Ellen, cutie. She became a nurse in the series. Aaron became a telephone operator. All these kids grew up and they had different occupations. Ben Walton, the smallest guy, he became an entrepreneur, has the great Jim Bob, he became a mechanic. Elizabeth, well, it just says Elizabeth. We don't know what she was. All right, I'm going to tell you the story of how the Waltons evolved. Now, here's the story. Back in 1971, CBS started canceling a lot of its popular shows that were popular in the 60s. The Beverly Hillbillies got the axe. Green Acres got the axe. Petticoat Junction was canceled. All these so-called rural shows. I wish I could say that word. Why? Because CBS wanted to go in a different direction. They wanted to have a more urban shows like All in the Family. the Jeffersons, right? So all of a sudden, I mean, the famous Pat Butcher, who was on Green Acres, had the famous line, yeah, we got canceled in 1971. Any show with a train got canceled, and that included Lassie. And he was right. But here's what happened. After the Homecoming, the movie The Homecoming, the Christmas movie was shown, and it was so popular, so popular. In fact, that was the leading Christmas show that season. Can you believe that? And back in that time, you had all the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, and you had all these shows that we watch every year now, Charlie Brown Christmas, And The Homecoming was the best show back in the day. A lot of people wrote letters to CBS and said, why are you canceling our favorite shows like the Beverly Hillbillies, Green Acres? We love these shows. Why are you canceling? So CBS, they were in it. They were in it. They weren't too popular. So they thought, all right, we're going to throw the people a bone, so to speak. We'll throw a bone. What we're going to do is we are going to turn The Homecoming into a TV series. And we're going to call it The Waltons. Now, here's what we're going to do. We don't think it's going to last for long. In fact, we're going to put it on a Thursday night, which nobody watches, at 8 o'clock. They gave the Waltons the worst possible spot. And the promotion sucked. And it was like, because they didn't expect the Waltons to last. They thought, we're not going to sink too much money into this show, because eventually people are going to watch it, we'll cancel it, and then, we'll have what we want. Guess what happened? The Waltons built up such a force of viewership. People loved it. And they started watching week after week after week, and they built a following. And all of a sudden, CBS had a hit on their hands. And they're like, okay, we'll take it, even though we didn't really want it, That was the miracle of the Waltons. The little show that could. The little show that started out, nobody wanted to show, and because of you, because of viewers like me, I used to watch the Waltons, it became a popular show. So, yes. Okay, we got that part. That was canceled. Oh, yeah. Who is it? Some of the cast was different from the Homecoming movie to the TV show. Like the part of Mrs. Walton in the Homecoming was played by Patricia Neal. Great actress. In fact, she won the Golden Globe in 1971 for portraying Mrs. But apparently she couldn't do the TV series. She didn't want to be tied down to a TV series. So Michael Lerner played the role of the mother to Walton. And as I said, Thursday at 8 o'clock was not the ideal time slot for the Waltons. And here's the other thing. The Waltons, they were put up against 2 other popular shows. That's why CBS was so sure that this show was going to die. On ABC, they were up against the Mod Squad, which is very popular back then. Peggy Lipton. Yep. And on NBC, the Flip Wilson Show, starring Flip Wilson. With Geraldine. The devil made me do it. The devil made me do it. I used to love Flip Wilson too. So, now that, come to think of it, that was a tough choice back then. Back in my TV viewing days, do I watch the Flip Wilson Show for an hour, or do I watch the Waltons? I think what I did was I used to watch Flip Wilson until the Waltons showed up, And then I watched the Waltons. And of course, back then, you couldn't DVR it, you couldn't DVD it, you couldn't watch it later. It was either watch it then or don't watch it, right? So you had a choice. And eventually, get this, the Waltons canceled Flip Wilson off the air. Flip Wilson was canceled a few years later, and the Waltons survived. How about that actors, huh? And I'll tell you another reason why the Waltons survived. Somewhere out there, like the song says, somewhere out there, da 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 da. The Waltons had a champion. And it wasn't me, it wasn't you, although the viewers really loved the Waltons and saved the Waltons. The sponsors of the show loved the Waltons. They loved the wholesomeness of the Waltons and what the Waltons meant to TV. And CBS, even if they have thoughts about canceling the show, no. The sponsors went to bat for the Waltons and said, you're not canceling this show. If you even touch this show, we're pulling all of our ads out of the other shows on CBS. And CBS went, okay. We'll let the Waltons go. And they did. So I can't read my own freaking writing here. Oh yeah. So, hey, listen to this then. So then the Waltons succeeded. Ralph Waite, the guy who played the Walton, the father in the TV series. Originally, he did not want the role. And the reason why he didn't want the role was because this is like fate, the way the Waltons came to be. It's because he didn't want to be tied down to a series. But his agent talked him into it. The agent said, listen, you're not working me down. I can't find you a job. Take the friggin' role, make a few bucks, and then the series is not going to last. Okay? Take the role, get a paycheck. They'll buy me some time to look for maybe something on Broadway for you. Okay? Take the role. So Ralph Waite ended up taking the role. And it was probably the best thing he ever did. He lasted 9 freaking seasons. And he made a lot of money. Some other Walton facts. Well, you know what? I gotta tell you this. Yes. There were reunions. And there were plenty of them. I'm going to just give you a few right here. Like the wedding on Walton Mountain. Mother's Day on Walton Mountain. These are all written. A day for Thanksgiving on Walton Mountain. Thanksgiving on Walton. 2 Thanksgiving movies. Can we get more Thanksgiving on Walton Mountain than that? Huh? A Walton wedding. Got a lot of kids, they're all getting there. And a Walton Easter. And like I said, a Walton Groundhog Day. No, I just made that. All right, final things. Actually, get this. Now, this is how hoity-toity CBS was with their, oh, we're not putting this series on. Oh, we think this series is going to be canceled. Oh, we'll show them. Well, guess what? In 1973, my friends, the Waltons won an Emmy for the best drama on TV. In 1973, Richard Thomas, the great Richard Thomas, John Boy himself, won an Emmy. How about that? In fact, Michael Leonard won 3 Emmys during the run of the Waltons. Ellen Corby, the grandma, won 3 Emmys. And Will Geer, the grandpa, won one in 1975. Final thing I have for you. 2013 TV Guide did a list of the 60 greatest shows ever in TV history. Now we're talking about this encompasses everything: the westerns, the comedies, the police shows, the medical shows, your Twilight Zone, your Marcus Welby MD, your Mother to Car, your Welcome Back Kotter, your Cheers, your Seinfeld, everything. Out of the 60 greatest shows ever, the Waltons ranked number 34 just to make that list. Oh my God. I'm like peeing myself here. Jesus. Just to make that list is pretty impressive. And the final thing, back in 2022, there was talk of bringing the Waltons back. Now, obviously, you're not going to bring the cast back. You know, most of the cast are old and gray now. Like I said, Richard Thomas is up there. So, wait. Alexa, how old is Richard Thomas? Richard Thomas is 73 years old. 73 years old, huh? Still a young guy. He could probably still do it. But, you know, again, like I said earlier, are you going to call the guy John Boy when he's 73 years old? I think not. Anyway, there was talk of bringing the Waltons back on some sort of maybe streaming thing, or cable, not on CBS, but haven't heard anything since. Either things broke down, you know how things are. You get these ideas and then they break down. Like, remember I told you this when I did Starsky and Hutch? They were actually going to do a reboot of Starsky and Hutch back in 2018. And this is a true story. Starsky and Hutch, you know how they were these cops who jumped over cars and were very athletic. They were running and they were jumping and they were doing stuff, right? The reboot of Starsky and Hutch was going to take place in an assisted living home. I kid you not. Why would I make something like that? Huh? Starsky and Hutch were going to be like roommates or whatever, I don't know, in an assisted living place, and they were going to solve crimes in the assisted place. I swear to God. But for some reason, I wonder why, that didn't fly. It didn't go through. But when David Soul died a few years ago, that's how I thought I had this. He did say that there were talks ongoing with Paul Michael Glazier, who played Starsky, and David Soul of redoing Starsky and Hutch, set in an old folks' home. So, you know, some of these ideas that some of these big TV executives have, they don't always pan out from your word processor to the TV studio. Something gets missing there. And most of the time, like other people say, that sucks. We're not doing that. That sucks. We're not doing that. So anyway, so the modern Waltons, wherever, whatever, whatever going to set it, never came to be. But you never know. You know how TV is. They like to rehash and rehash and rehash. And sequels. I bet you someday, some TV executive will say, guess what? We're bringing out the Waltons. You'll never know. All right. Well, that's my TV classic of the week. My celebration, my salute to the Waltons. God bless them. You know, I'll be frank with you as I leave you today. I like the Waltons. I did. Like I said, I even gave up football so to watch the Waltons back in the day. And will I watch them now? Yeah. If I see them on, sure I will. What the hell? What the hell? What else am I doing? I'll watch the Waltons. I will. And you know, you have the Waltons on all the episodes. You got all the 221 episodes and all the reunion movies. Oh my God, you can have the Waltons coming out of your freaking head if you want. But people enjoy the Waltons. I know people who love them. Like my sister-in-law, Laura. I love Laura. And I know she knows the Waltons, and she should, because it was a good series. It was a wholesome series, and you never have TV like that anymore. Damn it. So, anyway, thank you everybody for tuning in to my celebration of everything Walton. Next week we'll do another classic TV series like we always do. And if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget, you could go to YouTube, look up my channel, which is Unbreakable Spirits with an S on the end channel. And you can see all the old episodes, including all the old TV classic shows that I've talked about over the years. It seems like years, but it's been, actually, I'm getting close to 400 episodes now. How about that? This podcast, as much as it sucks, and it's not like the Kelsey's podcast where they're making all millions of dollars. I make nothing. And the thing is, this is really poorly produced. And look, I have dogs coming in and out of the room constantly. What the hell? But I tell you what, the little podcast that and I'm here like the ones. Okay, everybody, peace and love. Have a great day. I'll talk to you soon. Bye bye. Good night, John boy.